Welcome to Writing Through Your Depression with Saji Smiley. Saji Smiley, that would be me. I am a self-published author of the Empowered series. Durable Book 1 came out last year in April. And then after publishing my book and starting on my platforms, darkskinwriter.com, Instagram, and Facebook, I fell into a serious bout of depression. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, no big deal. Yes, huge deal, right? For me, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a Jamaican born and raised, very traditional in some aspects, including to dealing with mental illness. It just wasn't talked about. We didn't talk about it. No one acknowledged it. In fact, it was thought that if you did have a mental illness, you were bougie because who needs a therapist when you're Black, right? Yeah. Either I'm bougie or I just needed some serious help. Personally, I would prefer to be bougie, but hey, not the point. On a very serious level though, so last year I fell into a bout of depression right around April. And I don't know about you, but for me, my depression manifests itself in the form of withdrawing from everyone. So here I was going to work and as a flight attendant, yes, last year up till this year, COVID-19 crazy, I was a flight attendant for a major airline and I was flying all over the place. So you're probably asking, Smiles, there is no way you can be a flight attendant and suffer from depression. Yes, I can. And yes, I did. I was a functioning depressive. I would put on my smile, big smile, make you laugh persona, be as outgoing and social butterfly as possible. But as soon as I got into my house, I would curl up in a corner and, well, I was not a crier at that point in my life. So I would just sleep. Now, I told myself that the reason I need to sleep so much was because I was tired, which is true. As a flight attendant, one of the things that you find is that you are exhausted. You spend 6-8 hours going up and down, or 10 hours going up and down all day. It just wears and tears on your body. I don't know about you, after one flight, you're probably ready to sleep for a week. Imagine me having 4 flights a day, every day for like a week. 5 days, 6 days max. And it's more like 3 flights in a max. Yeah, depending how long it is. You get my point. You're going to be tired, right? But my tiredness it was more than just my work. It really was, it's a manifestation of me being depressed. But again, because I was a Jamaican woman and a Black woman, and it's just not talked about in the community about mental health, I ignored it. Didn't talk about it. Didn't mention that I was struggling to my family because, again, I know what my family is going to say, right? The three things that your family says when you talk about your mental illness. How can you be sad when, 1, you have a job, 2, you have a house over your head, and 3, you got food in your fridge? Who knows what I'm talking about? All right. So wasn't talked about, right? And for the Jamaican culture, don't know much about the American culture as much as I would like, but for the Jamaican culture, it's a stigma. You do not talk about your mental illness in no way, shape, or form. So me doing this right now, can't even imagine. But I thought it was important. I think it's really important. I wish when I was going through this, I was able to find people who understood the cultural impact of going to therapy, right? You know, you're thinking, oh, just go to therapy, it's not a big deal, but it is. There's a lot of mental blocks that you have to go through as a Jamaican, as a Caribbean woman. I won't even say Jamaican, as a Caribbean, as an islander, right? That you have to go through to say, I'm not okay, and my life may look good, but my emotional well-being is not. There's a lot of strength and courage that takes there. So, and once I did that, I wanted to be that strength and courage for someone else. I really wish there was more for me, so which is why I'm reaching out to you. So, moving on, tell you a little bit more about what my year looks like. So here I was, being a flight attendant, living my best life, and thinking that I was all good. I knew I wasn't good, but I pretended I was all good, right? The lies you tell yourself are so detrimental. Let me say it again. The lies you tell yourself are so detrimental. It's one thing to lie to someone else and to put up a fake face in front of everyone else. But when you start doing that to yourself, that's when you know things are really not, you need some help at that point. But anyhow, so here I am. April comes around, May comes around, and I have thrown myself into work. Now, if you were here for my video, my first video, you'll know that I am an avid reader. Avid reader, avid reader. I love to read and write. Writing first and then reading second. Love to read and write. But I wasn't doing either of it by May, right? And the conversation I had with myself essentially was, well, the summertime is going to pick up. I'm going to be super busy. I don't really have time for this. I'm not really big on social media to begin with. Like, I don't really want to do this. It's really not me. If you know me, you know that's a load of crap. I'm totally a social butterfly. I'm totally the person who enjoys reading and writing. Not doing either, which should have been a clear sign to me that I needed to talk to someone and I needed help. But again, I'm an island girl. We ain't having it. So, pulled myself up, put on my flight attendant persona, and I was off. And of course, last year had to be one of the busiest years for me as a flight attendant. I was everywhere, always international, nationally. I was just back and forth between everywhere, right? And then I want to say by June, July, August, as things are kind of winding down because the school time is about to start for most people across the country and the world. I found that I had lost my sense of adventure. As a flight attendant, you kind of have to have a sense of adventure with a lot of things because you find yourself in all types of places, right? But I found myself in Bolivia and I had no interest. I've never been to Bolivia before. Never been to Bolivia. That was always like my thing. But I was in Bolivia and did not want to leave my hotel room. 24 hours. Did not want to leave my hotel room. Again, you would think something would be like, bing, you need to talk to somebody. Not me. Not me. So I just told myself, I'm tired. Not a big deal. I just want to stay inside and get some rest. And that's pretty much how I lived my life for months on end. I would go to these exotic places and not leave my hotel room. And even when I was in the States and I was going to places, states I've never been to, I wouldn't leave my hotel room. And at first it was, well, I'm tired. And then when I wasn't tired, it was, well, I can't really afford this. I have other bills I want to pay, right? Or I need to save up. Look, I had a million reasons why I shouldn't do things. I shouldn't leave my hotel room. I was self-isolating. And then as if self-isolating at work wasn't bad enough, I was doing the same thing in my personal life. I had stopped talking to my family. And I'm not saying like I stopped talking to them all at once. No, I was very gradual about it. Like it was very much a purposeful thought in my head of, I don't need to talk to anyone. I can figure this out on my own and I'm good. Because I think subconsciously I knew that if I was supposed to talk to anyone and really got into the nitty gritty of my day, that everything that I had feeling would have come spewing out. And as an islander, what is it we don't talk about? Nothing of your emotional turmoil, right? Everything is always good. Everything is peachy, and if it's not, well, figure it out, and then you'll be peachy all over again, right? So that's, I want to say September, October comes around. Now, October is one of my favorite months. October is typically when I go on vacation. I would, in the previous years, I've gone to Greece, Vegas, trying to think of where else I've been. My point is, I traveled during October, not last year. And again, you would think Smiley would be like, I wonder why I don't feel like going anywhere. No, dealing with it, sucking it up. I just don't feel like going anywhere. I'm gonna stay home for the next 2 weeks. No big deal. I need the rest anyhow. I gotta gear up for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we know it's gonna be busy, right? Wrong. So wrong. But anyhow, I did what I did. Didn't talk to anyone, really withdrew to myself. And by the new year rolled around, I had very few people contacting me because eventually, and this goes for right across the board, and we all do this, right? Eventually, when you have that friend that you text constantly and they barely ever answer, and I also have the reputation of being the strong person, right? I was always the person that everyone went to for their problems. I'm the person that people dumped on. I am the person that people were just like, oh my God, Smiley, this happened, and I can't believe this, and da 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 da. And there was no problem with it, but I never felt as if it was a two-way street. Or I shouldn't say I didn't feel as if I knew it was a two-way street, but there was this thing, pride, really, right? If we want to get down to it, it was prideful. I didn't think that I wanted to share my personal emotional turmoil with the people who were sharing their personal turmoil to me because I was a strong one. I am the person that you come to. And I'm not an islander. Ain't nobody telling you about my business, right? Because that's just how we grew up. We don't talk about you don't talk about your business. You just don't. So that was December going to the new year, and it was what it was. And then this pesky pandemic came along, COVID-19. Now, I meant to apologize beforehand because I know this has affected a lot of people, and I pray for you and your family who have been affected by this and have gone through this. However, for me, COVID-19 was a relief. Please don't take this the wrong way. Here's why I say that. I had been going on my flight attendant persona for so long, and it was just second nature to me, but it was draining. It was emotionally and physically draining for me. So when COVID-19 came along and my flights started getting canceled one after the other, I couldn't have been more relieved because the first thing I did, I never forgot, I got home that day, looked at my cats, made sure they had water, made sure they had food, made sure the litter was clean, and then I went into my room and just locked it. And I'm not talking about for a couple of hours to sleep. I'm talking about for days. 4 days. The only time I left my room was to eat. How was it? I would crawl back into bed, didn't turn on the TV, didn't turn on the lights, and let me tell you, I'm scared of the dark, so didn't turn on the lights. I just laid in bed all day, every day. I want to say for almost a week. Like honestly, it was such a trauma for me that I cannot remember specifically. Those days were a blur, but I want to say I was in that room for a week, right? Every day I would get a new notification, your flight has been canceled for this week, your flight has been canceled for this week, and I was just could not be more happy because the fake Smiley that I had been showing to everyone, I did not have to don that persona. And again, you would think at this point in time, I would realize just how deep into my depression I was, but I couldn't. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And worse, I didn't want to know what it was. I just wanted to forget the world has existed. And I did. I forgot the world has existed. Every once in a while, I try to pull myself up. I was in a relationship at the time, or starting a relationship at the time. And so I would pull myself up, get myself together, and, be smiley. It just couldn't, but it's not sustainable. And for everyone out there who think that putting on a mask and behaving in a certain way that is expected of you, but then going home and not being able to look yourself in the mirror, that is the feeling that I am talking about. That is the feeling that I had all day, every day for almost a full year before it got to be too much. What do I mean by that? So by February, I was most definitely not working or working one flight every other week or so, or whatever it was at that point. But by May, so this is a full year after writing durable, right? Hadn't written anything. Whole year, not a peep from me. Had my editor, she was like, are you good? Like, you gonna start writing? I'm like, yeah, just not right now. I'm tired. Just didn't want to write. Full year goes by, and one morning I woke up and I was just tired. And I don't mean like just like tired, I want to go to sleep. I meant I was just tired of life. I was tired of living. I didn't want to deal. I didn't know what to do. And for the first time in God knows forever, I broke into tears in my bed and just sobbed into my pillow for dear life. Like I felt as though I was like releasing my life into my pillow. And I laugh because there's no real way to say that, right? There's no real way. I'm not very good at verbal. I can write it, but I can't tell you verbally. That's really what I felt. I felt like I just sobbed my life into that pillow. And when I went to sleep that night, I did something that most people would absolutely consider sacrilegious and disrespectful, but I prayed to God to end my life. And I want to pause for that for a second because I don't know who out there had to deal with how I had to deal with that, but it is something seriously screwed when you can sit in your bed and feel so alone and feel so desolate and feel so disillusioned with life that you can pray to your maker and ask him to end your life. That's where I was. I was just too overwhelmed and no tools to deal with it. And I didn't know why, right? I didn't know why I was feeling that way. All I knew was just I had had enough. So I prayed to God that night and I was just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. You just need to like take me. And then the next morning, I guess God must have been listening because the next morning I got up with this like need to find a therapist again. I keep saying this, but I really want you to understand how much being a Jamaican woman, being an island woman is imprinted on who I am as a person. I am traditional in most sense. I'm very traditional in most sense. So when it comes to doing therapy and talking to someone about my problems and opening up to people about my problems, I didn't have it in me at that point in time. Even though I was where I was, knew I needed help, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. All I could think of is, what would my family think? How was I going to explain this to people? And who was like, how important did I have to be? Like, why do I need therapy, right? Like, how important do I feel about myself that I think I need therapy? I should just be able to work this out on my own. Crazy ideas that really had no bearing on what I was feeling, but should have been feeling. Should not have had bearings on how I was feeling, but those are the thoughts that went into my head. So I ignored it. I stopped looking for therapy, for a therapist at that point in time. Excuse me. And told myself that I just figure it out, you know? And I tried. I here's what I did, right? I moved from my bedroom to my living room. That was, and as far as I was concerned, those were goals. I moved from my bedroom to my living room. I was solid. Like there's nothing better than that, right? Insane. There's no other way to talk about it but insanity. I'm a very logical person. I'd like to think I'm a very logical person, but that was one of the most illogical moments in my life where I decided that I was good. I wasn't good. So a couple months went by, and sure enough, the need to end my life arose again. But this time, instead of asking God, I actively thought about ways of ending my life. I actively thought about suicide. I actively researched, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but it is what it is. I actively researched ways to end my life, and I wrote my will. I got myself together. I made sure my bills were paid. I was ready. I was too done, and I was ready to get this over with. I went to bed that night. I didn't really have like a timeline in my head, but I knew I was getting ready. I knew the next couple of days, like this was gonna be it, right? So, excuse me. I got ready, went to bed that night, and woke up the next morning. And that same burning feeling that I had months before about getting a therapy, I couldn't shake it. Couldn't shake it, couldn't shake it, couldn't shake it. But I still didn't know how to take the steps. So I'm online, I'm researching, I'm looking into things. And then the suicide hotline popped up. And I have never been so grateful. And you know, I know a lot of people don't think suicide is serious. It really is, because and that suicide hotline saved my life, because I have never been so grateful to be able to reach out to someone that didn't know me, that couldn't see me, right? Because it's what it is. It's you have this feeling that you need to be hidden in your depression, and you can't really tell anyone. It's just you in this swirl of gloom and doom, and there's no one that you can turn to help pull you out. The suicide hotline was that for me. I called that night, and funnily enough, I was sitting in my bathroom, and I was crying, and I was crying so hard. And my cats, I love my cats. My goodness, I know people say that cats aren't very, they're not to be cuddling and not concerned about their owners. I don't believe that, because I was sobbing in the bathroom, and my cats were scratching at the door and meowing for dear life. And my cats are not loud. They're not vocal. But she was scratching the door for dear life. And I was sobbing so hard. I couldn't even get words out to tell this man on the phone how I was feeling, because I was just so overwhelmed. And finally he was like, he said, we do, you really need to start going to therapy. You need someone to talk to. And I was like, and I explained to him like how hard it was for me to do that as an islander. Like I couldn't get past what my family would think. I couldn't get past like the cultural stigma. But he was just like, he stayed on the phone with me and really talked me into it. So I fell asleep in the bathroom that night, woke up the next morning, found the nearest therapist, and requested an appointment. Now you'd think requesting an appointment, like that would be golden, right? That was not it. Unfortunately though, I only wanted these videos to last 20 minutes, and I'm over my 20 minutes. So I will talk to you guys my next video about how finding a therapist, how I found a therapist, and then struggled to even talk during my therapy session. It has been a pleasure, and I really hope telling you my story has inspired you to find some help and to know that you are not alone. And COVID-19 has made depression so much worse for a lot of people who really need to be out and about. So I will see you guys in a few days. Thank you. Bye.